Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another edition of Ray Talks, Next Generation Agriculture, here from the leaders. Today with me, I have a leader who has proven in many aspects to add immense value to small and marginal farmers, especially in Asia, Paul Voutier. Paul, welcome to this show.
Thanks, Raj.
Paul would be talking to me on challenges of digital adoption by farmers and the successful digital business models. As you're all aware, friends, Ray Talks, the series is brought to you by Ray Consulting. Ray Consulting is based out of Hyderabad, India, but we are global with clients in India, Southeast Asia, and Middle East. Ray Consulting strengthens clients' businesses in agri and allied sector, social and financial inclusion. We create vision, mission, and purpose for the businesses. Simply put it, if some of you are looking to transform your business, get in touch with us. Grow your business, talk to us. I am Raj with over 3 decades of experience in agri-import industry, having worked with companies like Rallis, Teminova, PI Industries, and Nagarjuna, with BS Agriculture and MS Agriculture and Business Management from XLR Jamshedpur. Having spoken about Ray Consulting and PI, let me introduce my guest today, Paul. I met Paul about a year ago, to be precise, last September in Jakarta, Indonesia. And I was very impressed the way he was offering services through Grow Asia to the entire ASEAN region. Paul is Director of Knowledge and Innovation at Grow Asia, a multi-stakeholder partnership platform that catalyzes action on inclusive agriculture development in Southeast Asia. Grow Asia was established by the World Economic Forum in collaboration with the ASEAN Secretariat. Paul is building a community of practice that brings together business, governments, NGOs, and leaders who share a commitment to using new innovations to make smallholder value chains more productive and sustainable. For Paul and Grow Asia, digitization is a core element of the program as it will impact every aspect of farming, from advanced technology that can grow more resilient crops to mobile financing solutions that can help smallholding farmers across to access the credit. Before joining Grow Asia, Paul had a stint in multiple verticals, including Mondelez, Olam, Syngenta, Heineken, and Einbach Citrus. Paul, after serving huge commercial conglomerates, now you've come to serve the farmer directly through Grow Asia. And Paul, because of his passion for digitization, he's gone into something very interesting by forming a company called Ambit Robotics, which is into robotics is into digitized spraying models, which we'll hear more from him. Paul, welcome to this show again.
Thanks for having me, Raj.
Yes. Before I talk to you, it's mandatory, and I thank for my sponsors, currently a couple of them. Sri Bioaesthetics. Sri Bioaesthetics is one of its kind, which is working exclusively on agri-microbiomes. It is founded and headed by Dr. K.R.K. Reddy, almost 3 decades veteran in microbials and bio-agri-imports. We also have a sponsor in the form of Seedworks International, which is doing extremely well in seed business in India currently. Seedworks MD, Vasantwada Venkatram, has shared a video with me. Let us hear to him.
Good day and greetings from Seedworks. My name is Vasantawada Venkatram. I work as CEO for Seedworks International Private Limited, based out of Hyderabad, India. Seedworks' vision is to provide superior seed solutions by harnessing technologies and innovation to create value for all stakeholders in a sustainable manner. At Seedworks, we are committed to enhance the livelihood of the farming community by closely working with public, private, and civil society to meet the national goal of doubling up the farmer sector. The introduction of Agriculture 4.0 has paved the way for a new space in agriculture, which we now call as the agri-tech sector. Companies use the latest and emerging technologies in agri-sector as an engine for sustainable growth. At Seedworks, being a life science and technology company, we are focusing on digitization and innovation as levers to meet the social, environmental, and the economic growth of the seed ecosystem.
Yes, that was Venkat, a great friend of mine. Yes, Paul, thank you so much. We are sitting at the comfortable time of 4 o'clock in India, whereas you're talking to me from Melbourne, Australia. It's almost 9 o'clock there. Thanks for the sacrifice. I'm sure this sacrifice would immensely help at least Indian subcontinent, and besides almost 17, 18 countries participants who are in this show today. Let me start talking to you by putting a question which is very passionate to you. You feel that when a new product is launched or some new business is done, you go to a consumer and ask the likes and dislikes, and based on that the product comes out. And you feel that why not do the same thing in agriculture? So you wanted to go to the farmers, you went to the farmers and asked their requirements, and you then created the digitization solutions for them and various other solutions. Paul, my question to you is, you created something called chat, right? And you have mapped farmer digital adoptions into steps. What are they? And how can they help the farming community?
So what we observed happening, Raj, is that we saw entrepreneurs and large agribusinesses coming up with new ideas that they could implement, digital ideas to help farmers. So I could very easily imagine a peer-to-peer lending service where I could create an Android application and lend funds to a farmer, or I might imagine that I could build an extension application that gives farmers weather advice or advice on which seeds to use in a particular location. And then what we do as entrepreneurs and agribusinesses is we then take this idea to the farmer, and we're quite accustomed as an industry now to asking farmers what they think. So we go to the farm and we say, would you like a peer-to-peer lending services that reduces your cost of credit? Or would you like up-to-date weather information? And of course, when presented with this idea, often farmers will say, yes, that sounds fantastic. I'd love that new service. But what we were seeing was that entrepreneurs and large agribusinesses that launched digital products were often frustrated with the adoption that they were getting. So they went and did the right thing and asked farmers what they wanted, and then supposedly provided what the farmer wanted, but then they're just not getting the adoption. And they find it hard to get farmers to pay for services that we would like to be able to provide, that we think are important to farmers. So we did something a little bit different, Raj. We said, okay, let's not go to the farm and say, do you want access to credit? Do you want quality seeds? Do you want a digital marketplace to buy better fertilizers? Let's just ask farmers how they use their phone today. So let's not go there with an idea. Let's not pitch anything. Let's just ask farmers, how do you use your phone today? What do you find useful about your phone? And I guess the surprising result for me was a couple of things. First of all is the farmers that we spoke to were very poor adopters of Android applications. So, and this is not so true in India. I think in India you have a slightly higher adoption of Android apps, but in Southeast Asia it's very low. And I think that's because we sort of miss the mark a little bit when we create Android apps, or we can miss the mark a little bit. And when we develop an Android app for a farmer, what we're typically trying to do is expand that farmer's horizon. So we go to the farmer and we say, you download this app, I can introduce you to 10 more traders so you can get a better price. I can introduce you to 100 lenders who can give you better access to credit. I could introduce you to this expert from the university who's going to tell you which seed to use. But actually farmers use digital products very differently. They're not so much looking to expand their horizons as to reinforce relationships that they already have. And this was the big surprise to me. So while we want to build the next Amazon of digital agriculture for smallholder farmers, when we actually spoke to farmers, what they love about digital is connecting to people they already know. So farmers love, at least in Southeast Asia, and those that we spoke to, love to talk to other farmers through WhatsApp, through Line, through Facebook Messenger. They love to connect with their retailer and ask questions and ask whether a product's available and how much it will cost. They like to connect to the traders and the lenders that they deal with. So what we imagine farmers would like, which is often these sort of large app-driven solutions that expand their horizons and help them connect to new opportunities, is actually really opposed to the way we see farmers actually using their phones. They actually use their phones to reinforce existing face-to-face relationships they already have. So it's a complete pivoting, in my mind. It's a completely different way of thinking about what a mobile phone is. And we have entrepreneurs who are thinking about a mobile phone in one way, and we have farmers who are thinking about what their phone can do for them in a very different way. And I think it presents a real challenge for entrepreneurs that we need to think about.
See, when you speak this, you know, the farmer is looking for a solution from various ways, not just as a solution, what is a problem, and then the solution coming in. Now, currently, for example, if you take India's situation, because of this pandemic, contactless things have improved and are the new normal here, including in agriculture. Now, farmers are looking forward to know more about how they grow better crops through the extension officers from the government and from the corporates. So is there anything which you feel where a farmer can be connected one side with a solution from the government? Two, very important is how does he implement it?
Yeah. So what we're really interested in this space at the moment, and this is because we are seeing very low adoption of Android extension applications. So any day a farmer can download any of 100 different applications that will supposedly give them advice about what to grow, what the latest weather is, and so forth. And that's fine, and there are farmers that are adopting that. But I think the really interesting answer to your question, Raj, is in these chat platforms. So let's take a very significant phenomenon in Southeast Asia, and I'm sure this is a phenomenon in India as well, which is the local village level chat group. So farmers will tend to join, I'm not sure what the number would be in India, but in Southeast Asia, 3 or 4 different groups that they will look at regularly. So sometimes it might be a group of tomato growers in a particular province or region if they're a tomato farmer. It might be a village level chat group. It might be a chat group that's established by their retailer in their village, or an extension agency or a government extension service. And then these chats become a lively location for debating, you know, what seed should I use? What fertilizer should I use? So I think the real question for me as an input manufacturer, as an input distributor, how can I become part of these groups in a meaningful and value-adding way? So what we are interested in is two approaches, Raj. The first is an influencer-based approach. So if you look at these groups, if you look at the way farmers connect in a chat environment, there are what we would call influencers in those groups. So these are people in the group who are posting much more often than everybody else. They're trusted. They might be a lead farmer, somebody who's respected in the community. They might be a retailer. I'm sure you have this in India. And for the input manufacturer or the government extension agency, the challenge is, how can I get messages to influencers? So if I've got a new seed, if I've got a new technique that I want to bring to the farming community, how can I make influencers aware of this? And then how can I motivate the influencers to pass this knowledge on into the chat environment? And this is a well-worn path for the advertising industry. Advertising industry uses influencers all the time to reach people with their messaging. And I think in the crop protection world, in the government extension world, I think we can start to be much more strategic in how we connect into these groups. And I'm really excited in Southeast Asia about the potential. This is, you know, millions, maybe in India, millions is not a very large number. Tens of millions of farmers who are in these groups. They're active. They trust the people in these groups. And I think the influencer model, and I don't want to pretend to know exactly how we use influencers. I think it takes a little bit of testing with your network to see which influencers are effective in passing on messages and how any incentive system would work. But I will say, Rich, that we're really interested in the idea of a traceable link. So if I've developed a new crop protection product, it's come onto the market, and I've created some collateral around it. So a video, it could be an image, it could just be some text. What I really want to do is I want to couch that in a traceable link. So I want to be able to pass it on to a government extension agency or onto a retailer. And I want to know how many times that piece of collateral was clicked on. And then you have to have a unique link just for that collateral. And what you can do is you can actually pass one link to one influencer, a different link to another influencer, a different link to the other influencer. And now I can see, is channel A better? Is channel B better? Is channel C better? And we can start to learn, how can I push this information out to farmers? And channel A might give me 10,000 farmers, and channel B might give me 100 farmers. So I can start to see what's working and what's not. And as you say, in this COVID era where we can't walk from farm to farm, as if that was efficient in the first place, we can't walk from farm to farm. We can't even run farmer field schools. This is the ideal time to start generating collateral, tracing how many farmers are looking at it, tracing which pathways to the farmers are working and which ones aren't. And as I say, I'm really excited by the potential of this. Whether you're a government extension agency or an input manufacturer, I think this just has enormous potential. These are groups that farmers enjoy being part of. They trust the people in them. They trust the advice they receive. They're sharing it and debating it between each other. So I think it's a great place to sort of connect and to learn how to sort of lob information into these groups. So yeah, as you can see, I'm really excited by the potential of these groups.
I could see that. I know you brought in the entire thing, the organic and the village level chat groups as important. And you mentioned that what are they and how might businesses connect into them. It's connecting the entire value chain here. Awesome. Now, I think having heard from you on the chat or the farmer's point of view, when it comes to the delivery models, what we call as a business models, we see that so many models come in, what we call we don't have, which is actually innovative. It's more into what we call as it's farmers feel whether they're getting value delivered or not. Is it a cost? A lot of questions come in, and farmers don't want to invest in the digitization and stuff like that. And what we understand is most of the business models are typically discovered rather than designed. That's what I feel. I don't know how you feel. So if you have to pick up few business models, what would they be?
Yeah, sure. So let me start by explaining why I think the business model question is so important as technology entrepreneurs and as agribusinesses. So when we approach the farming community, we often do it from the perspective of the word should. So we come to the question of digitization with a should. So let me give an example. Farmers should have access to lots of different fertilizers on a digital marketplace. Farmers should have access to the latest agronomic information. Farmers should have access to lower cost credit. Now the problem, Raj, with should, and all those shoulds are true. I have enormous respect for smallholder farmers, an enormous sense of wanting to deliver this value. But the problem, Raj, is when we start with a should, we don't ask whether it's viable. And what we tend to do is we say, we should introduce this application, we should introduce this technology because it's important. We need it in the smallholder sector, and often we do. But if we ask the viability question first, can I sell this to a farmer for a price that is higher than what it costs me to provide that farmer, then I'm off and away. Then I can have an enormous impact on millions of lives, millions of farms, food security, the well-being of families. But I don't get to have that impact unless I can provide the service for less than the farmer is prepared to pay. And it's a harsh reality, Raj. I mean, we don't want to ask this question. We want to build, we want to explore, we want to build empires, we want to have impact. But I think it's not until we ask the viability question and say, where's the business model? Where can I actually make money here? And it's not because I'm a selfish person. It's not because I want to walk away with $1 million. If I want to walk away with $1 million, go into any other industry apart from smallholder agriculture, right? But if you want to build a business, if you want to have impact, then I think you need to get the business model question very, very early in your thinking. And this is true if I'm a startup entrepreneur, but it's just as true even if I'm a large crop protection company with a large marketing budget. There's really not much point building something unless it's viable, because it's just going to suck your budget for years and years and years to come. So what do we think's going on here? So where are the business models? Where can I make money? And to me, it comes down to the lifetime value of that customer. So if I can bring a customer into my business as a credit customer, as a consumer of agricultural inputs, as a subscriber to my extension service, what's their value to my business? Is it $1 a year? Is it $10 a year? Is it $100 a year? And that is an absolutely critical question. What's the lifetime value of a farmer? When they sign up to my new exciting digital business that's going to change the world, how much am I going to receive? And I'll just touch on one model that I'm really interested in. That's the credit model. So if we look at the interest rates that farmers pay, and we all know, if we've worked in the industry for a while, we know there's some pretty scary interest rates out there in the market. We know that when farmers lend from village level lenders, when they lend from retailers, interest rates are high. And we've seen many farmers paying 50% annualized interest rates, 100% annualized interest rates. These are much more than you and I pay, Raj, when we go to get a loan for our business, for our home. So in terms of the lifetime value of a farmer as a customer within a business model, I think the lending one's really exciting. So I think the potential to build a viable business model around credit to provide lower cost credit to farmers, but still make a return, to me, that's a really exciting one. And in our report, which is coming out in the next week or so, we're going to talk a little bit about mechanization. So this tractor hire service, that business model and how that works. We're going to look at extension and how the extension business model works. We're going to look at traceability and how the traceability business model works. So look, lending is certainly not the only one there, Raj, but I think what we're really trying to do with this report is say, where's the business model? Where can I make money and build a viable business? And what are the models? So I'd encourage people to download the report, have a look at it. Perhaps I can pass it on to you, Raj, and you can put it up on the LinkedIn. But
Yes.
It's not so much about saying these are the only 5 business models. I think we're not the smartest people in the room. There's lots of business models out there. But we've highlighted these 5 because we think it asks the right question. Can I build a viable business here? Where's the digital business model that's going to work in smallholder agriculture? That's the question we want to ask. And the report simply says these are 5 models that we think, looking across the landscape, appear to be working. So thanks, Raj.
Yeah, I think the report even I have gone through. It's a very well researched and adopted report.
Thank you, Raj.
Yeah, in that you have come out with a couple of ideas, LTV and CAC.
Yeah.
So can you elaborate on this? Why are they so important?
Sure. So lifetime value, right, is a very simple question. How much is each new customer to my exciting new digital solution going to put into my pocket? So if I have a lending service and I'm lending money to farmers, every time a new farmer joins my business and they take a loan, how much money am I going to get? And again, it's a very selfish question, but it's a very important question. And then the other question is the cost of acquisition. So how much does it cost me for this farmer to come on board into my business? Now, the secret here is, if it costs me $3 to acquire a new customer, and the average customer provides me $2 in value, I will eventually go broke. It doesn't matter how many investors come on board to my business. It doesn't matter how many donors give me a grant. Eventually, I will go broke and I will run out of money, because every time a new farmer joins, it costs me more to bring them on board than they ever provide in value. And the reason I think this is the question to ask in smallholder agriculture is this: lifetime values are low. Smallholder farmers don't make a lot of money. They typically are very cost averse and very unwilling to pay for digital products. So lifetime values are low. The other problem, Raj, is cost of acquisition costs are very high. So if I want to go out to a village and show my farmer the new application and get them on board, it's really expensive, because I've got to go out to rural areas, meet lots of people. A lot of them are going to say no. So lifetime values are low. Cost of acquisition is high in our industry, because if you look at the cost of acquisition for these in more sophisticated markets in India and in Australia and the US, the cost of acquisition is quite low, because digital consumers like you and I are used to signing up for $20 a month, $30 a month service. Nobody has to sell it to me. It's just online. I look at the price and think, yeah, it's good. So, and we were talking before about, joining up to Zoom and paying for Zoom. So we really have to ask the lifetime value question. We have to ask the cost of acquisition question, and they're not easy questions. It's really difficult to build digital models, business models in the smallholder sector that really address those two things. And we just have to be honest about how hard that can be, Raj.
See, when lifetime value and cost of acquisition, how will the entrepreneur benefit from this? How will the scalability of the business model occur when cost of acquisition and lifetime value to be merged? Are we dependent too much on the grants or the governments?
Look, it is a risk, and it doesn't matter, and it is a real risk. I think there's a lot of grant money that's going into digitization, and I think when I'm given a grant as an entrepreneur, or even a government extension service, it tends to send me in the wrong direction, where I'm starting to say, oh, look, the cost of acquisition doesn't matter too much because I've got this grant. The lifetime value doesn't matter too much because I've got this grant. So we're kind of getting the wrong message. But if I sit down with a VC, then a VC will ask me, this is the first question they ask, how much does it cost you to acquire a customer and how much are you making? Now, I think the best advice I've seen, and this is not my advice, this is very much from the VC industry, is to stay really small. A lot of entrepreneurs want to get to 10,000 farmers, they want to get to 1 million farmers. But if your cost of acquisition is higher than your lifetime value, the more farmers you have, the more quickly you lose money. It's much better to stay with 100 farmers, 1,000 farmers, and try and iterate your business model. Keep changing your business model until that lifetime value exceeds the cost of acquisition. And if you can do that with a really small number of farmers, then each new farmer you add is now making you money. So now you can go to scale. But the strong advice I would give entrepreneurs, and it's the same for agribusiness, keep the solution size really small until you can get that right, until your lifetime value exceeds your cost of acquisition, and then go for it. You can really go for scale. Buy the advertising, spend the money on Google advertising, whatever it is, and you can go to scale. But to me, they're just they're the beating heart of the success of digital agriculture is those two questions. And I'd encourage any agribusiness, any entrepreneur to be absolutely disciplined around lifetime value and cost of acquisition.
Awesome, Paul. I'm enjoying talking to you. And so much interest coming in. Before I move to your project of Ambit Robotics, let me take a couple of questions. Some hands are coming up. And I also request audience, if you have a question and you would love to talk to Paul, please raise your hand and then I'll take it. I have Isha who's raised the hand. I'll take a question from Isha. Meanwhile, you all know that Ray Talks, the offer from Ray Consulting, is uploaded on YouTube. You can YouTube/Ray Consulting, and you can get all the past recordings. Please like, subscribe, and forward to your friends. Yes, Isha, you can have a word with Paul. Put your question. Introduce yourself, please.
Hello, Paul. This is Isha. And actually, I'm a student. I just completed my MSc and I'm looking to do PhD. So I was more concerned about how to see the opportunities for me in this case of my PhD also for long-term helping farmers. So what would you suggest me about which areas I should concentrate more? And also you have worked with so many companies, including Syngenta. So I would just like to know your experience regarding that.
Yeah, sure. Look, firstly, on the areas to look at in a PhD, if you really want to use your career to impact the lives of smallholder farmers, I think there's lots of different ways to do it, and it depends on your skills. But I will say that I think there's enormous potential in digital credit scoring. I think we really need to understand the risk profile of farmers. Because if we can understand the risk profile of farmers and make intelligent credit decisions, I think we can impact people at an enormous scale. And as I said before, the cost of capital to buy fertilizers, to buy inputs, to buy land in India or in rural Southeast Asia, it's still too high. It's still really slowing our industry down. And I think there's enormous potential for people at that PhD level to be looking at credit scoring in more detail. How do we use satellite? How do we use people's chat history? How do we use transaction records? How do we use banking records to substantiate credit risk? There's so much research and so many exciting pathways, I think, for somebody that's at the start of their career. I think in terms of the crop protection companies, I've loved working with so many of them. I've worked with Bayer on a hackathon. I've worked with Corteva recently on the robot trials. And with Syngenta on some of their stewardship products. I think I do love working with the input manufacturers because, and not just the big three, but also some of the mid-tier ones as well, because they are really close to farmers, and they're really, their whole business is built up from farmers. And I think it's a great place to learn. And the passion that I see for farmers and the well-being of farmers inside the input companies, I think they're a great place to work, and great companies to work with.
Thank you.
Thanks, Isha. Thanks, Isha. Udhav, you can unmute and speak. Udhav Sirsat. Yes, Udhav, you can go ahead.
Raviji, good afternoon, and good afternoon, Paul. Thanks for giving me opportunity to put up my question. I am a vegetable seed expert. I work for East West Seed International as a knowledge transfer manager India, and my main role is to give practical training to our team farmers in different states. It was a very good information from Paul on the digitalization and spreading the information to the farmers. What problem I come across whenever we engage the new generation, the lot of efforts that goes to digital media, but they working in the field practically, it's very less, or many of them, they have no interest. Just guide me how I can make a good combination of digital plus actual field.
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think really for me, if you want to push information out to a farmer, and look, you'll be more experienced than me if you've worked with East West, but we really need to think about pathways of trust. So who does the farmer trust? So I can have all the great ideas at East West Seeds, and East West Seeds is a great brand with a really good reputation for the quality of the seeds that you produce. But farmers don't necessarily know whether if you're pushing something out, and that could be a new seed or it could just be some information about, they don't necessarily know whether to trust that information. And they'll tend to want to filter that information through the farmers around them. Have you heard this new seed? Have you heard of this advice that I'm seeing on the East West Seeds platform or on the East West Seeds website? Have you tried it? Does it work for you? So if you want to see things reach the field, if you want to see them reach impact, you really do need to think about those trusting relationships. Who does the farmer trust? And how can I position the information, or how can I position the new seed into that trust network in such a way that the farmers will trust me and give it a go? And I think I'm not pretending I have all the answers, but I think that's the right question to be asking.
Yes.
Thanks,
thank you very much, Paul. Thanks.
Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah, thank you. Where are you based out of, Udhav? Okay, so we'll take call from a lot of questions for you, Paul. Rachel Janet. Rachel, can you speak? Introduce yourself and talk to Paul, please.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Agarwal, for having given us this opportunity, and thank you, Paul, for joining us despite the time zone
No worries.
variation. Thanks. My question, my name is Rachel. I'm a product development manager for Tagros Chemicals. We are an agri-input firm based in Chennai.
Yes.
I am more interested in the e-commerce of agri-inputs, and I want to connect it with the with the statement you made, like you suggested that we run a pilot with 100 to 1,000 farmers and keep improvising on the test models. Okay, so for an e-commerce on agri-input thing, how soon or what is the time frame we are looking on scaling up? from 100 to 1000. Suppose I take 100, and if I want to reach up to 10,000, 100 into 100. So what is the time frame I can look into?
Sure.
How long is it going to take?
Yeah. Let me make a very quick comment about electronic trading in the smallholder industry before I talk a little bit about your scale-up curve. So what we're observing is that it's actually quite difficult to build a straight-up e-commerce platform in our industry because there's a number of challenges. One is if I sell a product over a digital platform, can I deliver it? Given that you might have farmers in lots of different remote locations. Can I deliver it profitably, even more importantly? And I think what we're trying to encourage entrepreneurs to do, Rachel, is think a little bit about, instead of the traditional e-commerce platform, instead of the Amazon for smallholder agriculture, have a little think about digitally enabled trading. So how can I go to a retailer and give them a digital tool for managing their inventory or managing their sales or managing, so take a trading relationship that's already established and give them some digital tools to make things more efficient. That to me seems like a more promising avenue for digitizing trading within our industry than it does to just build a website or build an application for a double-sided trading model like an eBay or an Amazon. So that's just my challenge to you. And I think that's what we're starting to see is the really clever entrepreneurs in the e-commerce space are actually working with traditional traders, with traditional retailers, and enabling them electronically rather than replacing them with a website or with an Android app. So that's just a thought, and it may not apply to what you're doing, but I wanted to share it. Anyway, in terms of scale up, my suggestion is this. If you can create an e-commerce platform with 100 farmers in it or 1,000 farmers in it, I would say stay there until you're profitable. If it takes a month to get profitable, if it takes a year to get profitable, if it takes 10 years to get profitable, stay with that 100, stay with that 1,000, do not expand. And there's some great stories about minimum viable products. And there's a fantastic, like I said, a Harvard Business School study about somebody who went down to their local shoe store. Sorry, they set up a website to sell shoes. And whenever somebody bought them, they just went down to the local shoe store, bought the shoes, and then sent them to the customer. And it's a great way to test your business model, find out what people want before you go and buy 10,000 pairs of shoes, put them in a warehouse and start losing money. So it's some really clever strategies to build really small scale pilots to discover whether you've got a credible client base before you start losing money at scale. So my strong advice to you is stay small, stay small, stay small. Just keep staying small until you're profitable, until each new customer is delivering more lifetime value than they cost you to bring into your business. Just stay there. Don't grow, don't grow, don't grow until you've got a profitable business model, and then reach for the stars and absolutely go for it. But keep testing it, keep iterating, keep learning, and keep trying to provide that value that somebody will pay for.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
No worries,
Rachel. Take care. Yeah. We'll take a question from Mohammed Nizar. Mohammed, can you unmute and speak? And introduce yourself, please.
Mohammed, you're still on mute.
Unmute.
Thank you, Agarwal, sir. Thank you, Paul. Actually, we are a very small group of organic farmers based on India. We want to develop our traceability for our product, which even though we have a certification, still we are facing some difficulty to market our, to catch the trust from the customers. So what we thought is we start a blockchain traceability for our product. Then after we want to expand that, give that product to other farmers also. So now we are develop the application for information to give the farmer to produce for better. Now, as of now, we are only 15 member of farmers. We are trying to implement all these things. Here, some of IT guys are involved, and they are asking so many how to scale all these things, which is actually we don't know that how to scale all these things, something like that. Now, we want to onboard a financial side and input side people into our platform. Is this viable to run our project, or we are settled down to the traceability only?
Yeah, an interesting question and a difficult one. And I think traceability is a difficult business model to get right. So my suggestion to you is this: there is a cost to collecting data, okay? A traceability service is essentially collecting data. So if you have 15 farmers or 100 farmers or 1,000 farmers, what we're doing with a traceability service or a traceability platform is we're collecting data. And then the question is, how do I monetize this data? So there's a cost. So it might cost you $10 per farmer per year, or it might cost you $100 per farmer per year. I'm not sure. But how am I going to get that back? And it's the same problem as before. If it costs me $10, but it only adds $5 in value, then I'm just going to keep losing money forever. So how can I get money out of my data? So the least viable way to sell traceability data is to your customer. So if you've got an organic rice that is certified to a particular standard, your customer will pay you a little bit more for that rice and a little bit more for the data, but probably not very much. And we don't believe on the whole that just collecting data and selling that data to your customer is ever going to be very viable. What I'd be really interested in is how can I use traceability to secure credit? So how can I use traceability to say, this farmer in my group has had a successful harvest every year for the last 3 years, and they've made $1,000 or $2,000 or $10,000. And how can I take that traceability record to a bank and get credit at a lower cost because of the traceability data? So I think credit's a really interesting one for traceability data. I think the customer is, you can make a little bit of money there, but not typically very much. And then you might be able to do something like tying in some of your suppliers into the traceability platform, so they have some visibility of what you're buying and what you might need. Perhaps they can service you a little bit better using that data. But it's a really good question. If I collect data on my group, how can I monetize that? Where's the avenue to leverage that data? Really good question. And my hunch is that credit, that financing avenue, if it can unlock lower cost credit for your farmers because you traced, my hunch is that's where the money is. That's where I think traceability can perhaps add the most value.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, we will take last 2 quick questions, and then I need to move forward to talk to Paul. Paul, let's hear from Shankar Balay. Shankar, introduce yourself and have a question to Paul.
Hi, Mr. Paul.
Hi, Shankar.
Hi, Mr. Raj.
Hi.
How are you both?
We are good, thank you.
I have one little question.
Can you introduce yourself, just quick?
My name is Shankar Balay. I am representing the seed company called Asta Biocare Private Limited. It is running since last 12 years.
Okay.
So my question is to Mr. Paul, when we are talking about the digitization, digital farming and all those things, when you are building a program or a software, whether such software is really workable for the Indian farmers, where they have a very little farming holding first, India have different type of agroclimatic conditions like drought, like flood, like coastal areas. When a farmer who is going to approach you for taking your guidance, how he can be benefited? Because you are talking about...
Yeah, I think Paul got the question from you.
Thank you.
It's a really good question, and we've seen a lot of applications developed that overreach. So, as entrepreneurs, and look, I'm an entrepreneur, and we'll talk about my robotics business in a minute. We want to go big. We want to have impact. We want to change the world, right? And as you've alluded to in your question, there's a huge risk there, because if I've got farmers on dry land, I've got irrigated farmers, I've got farmers growing tomatoes and farmers growing potatoes, all in using my application, how can I possibly provide value? Because I've got to segment my advice for all these different farmers, different credit products, whatever it is I'm offering. So absolutely, my advice is segment your market. Be absolutely clear of, okay, and I'll talk about my robotics business in a moment, but just to use it as an example, I am only focused on fungicide and I'm only focused on potato. I don't want to talk to anybody about any other crop or any other purpose for a robot except potato and fungicide, because I know that that's where I can provide the most value out of a robotics solution. So my advice to you is, whatever app you're building, whatever solution you're building, is just ignore any farmer that doesn't fit your profile. Don't try and build a solution for everybody. Start with a really clear idea of where you can offer the most value. Even if it's a very, very small market, it doesn't matter. Nail it, get it right. And if you can start in potatoes, prove your model works, and then start providing a service for tomato farmers or rice farmers, great. But absolutely be really, really clear about where you can get the most traction and provide the most value straight away.
Thanks, Chef. Yeah, we'll take last question before I go back to Paul. Ganesh, can you unmute and speak to Paul? Yes, Ganesh.
Ganesh, you unmuted, but you've muted again. There you are.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Ganesh, I don't think your microphone's working.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yeah. As last 45 minutes we heard Indian near about 70 to 80% farmer are small scale holders.
Ganesh, your voice is echoing. Are there two people using in the same area or something?
Yeah, 1 second. Hold on. Yeah. Can you hear me now clearly?
Yes.
Introduce yourself and then speak.
Yeah. So this is Ganesh. I'm working in Bayer in quality department. Okay. So I am a farmer's son. I have working last 5 to 8 years in seed industry. In that we heard 45 minutes, last 45 minutes, Indian farmer is so small scale holders like farmers. So in that you introduce anything in that region, like a small region, like some village or in district, like in taluka place. So in that they can't understand us, or they can't faith us any product, like any bio chemical products or bio fertilizers. So how would you faith us and do the best what we do?
Okay, Ganesh, I'm going to try and approach your question from two angles. I think, firstly, your farmers can afford your products if they provide value. It doesn't matter how small a farm is. Bayer's crop protection products, Bayer's seeds are, they're top shelf, right? You've got a good quality product. And even on a small farm, those products will make a difference and they will help a farmer become more profitable. My hunch, and I may be wrong, is that if your customer base can't access credit at a reasonable rate, they'll never get a return from buyers' products. So if their cost of capital, if they're paying 100% interest rates, then they can't afford to buy your product, because even if it's a great product, they can never repay the loan. So my hunch is, yes, these are very small farms, and I know they're very difficult to reach because they're small customers, small deal size, and I think that's where things like chat and digital can reduce your cost of acquisition and get the buyer story out to very small farms. But until you start to answer the credit question, until you explore how your farmers are securing enough money to buy seeds or buy crop protection products, I think it is a very, very difficult market to reach. And I think the credit question is a really good one to be asking as somebody who's selling the kind of products that the buyer have in your portfolio. I hope that helps you, Ganesh.
Thanks, Ganesh. Yeah, Paul, thank you. Paul, before we allow you to go to sleep, go to bed, I know you was feeling drowsy and sleepy for about 10 minutes more. I now would like to take to your passion, which is a latest. You founded Ambit Robotics, precision agriculture for smart farming based out of Melbourne, Australia, where you are now. Now tell me, this new venture is, I think, all about spray robots. And is it something like working on driverless cars?
It is. So
I'm happy. My son is working in driverless cars.
Oh, is he? Okay.
In the US. So I'll ask him to get in touch with you anyway. Yeah. So tell me, why are you investing in this? Why are you investing in this industry? Isn't it? I mean, of course, challenges and risks have to be taken. But how do you feel?
Sure.
Value, and how are you meeting your passion working through this project? I mean, this venture.
So Raj, wherever we go in Asia, we see the backpack sprayer, and even right across India. I'm sure you're aware of you have these beautiful chrome backpack sprayers across India, and we see people walking up and down the crop rows. They might be spraying fungicide, they might be spraying insecticide, but there's a few real problems with the backpack sprayer. One is they're not safe. So here in Australia, it's more or less illegal to use a backpack sprayer on a commercial farm because you're exposing people to drift, you're exposing people to chemicals, whether it's during the mixing process, during the spraying process. They're really slow. It takes hours and hours. If you want to spray properly, it takes hours to spray a hectare. And it's really inaccurate because you're going back and forth over the plant, you might be missing bits. It's just not a very effective way to spray. So what we're trying to do with the robot is we're trying to provide a really small, portable, low-cost robot that basically does the job. So it just goes up and down the crop row. It's a really simple robot. There's no AI. There's none of these high-end technology. It's a very simple four-wheel drive robot that just goes up and down the rows and delivers fungicide onto potatoes. And what that does is it just reduces the labor cost, improves the accuracy, and in something like potatoes where you have this late blight that can come through and destroy an entire hectare of potatoes in just a few days, getting that really accurate placement of chemical onto the crop's really, really important. So as you can see, we've gone straight for it. We're right in the middle of product development. It's not easy to do. We have some very high-end GPS products that allow us to pinpoint the location of the robot down to a couple of centimeters. And that allows us to really accurately navigate that crop row. And then once you can do that, I think you can just add so much value for the farmer and for the person that's operating the spraying equipment. Yeah.
I have a thing, when you speak about precision farming to robots, so will it only, of course, with its AI, it will pick up only the affected area to be sprayed?
No, that's not where we're starting, Raj. And I know a lot of people have started there with robotics because I mean, obviously, if you can just spray the affected plants, I mean, that is gold, right? But I guess I've stressed this a number of times during the last hour we've had together, is where's the value? So if I go out to a farm today, and I'm much more familiar with Indonesia than I am with India, but maybe in India you get the same response. And I say to a farmer, what do you want? What do you want from your fungicide application? And they say one thing to me. They say, I want a dripping plant. I want every plant to be absolutely covered in fungicide to the point where it's dripping. I want nothing else. And this is where the market's at. You know, the market wants a blanket application.
Blanket coverage.
Because they need confidence. They need confidence that the late blight is not going to come. And the only way that they know that they can be confident is every plant has to be absolutely dripping in fungicide. So as much as, you know, as an environmentalist, I might say we need to use more precision, or my economic brain might say we need to use precision to reduce chemical usage. That's not what the farmer wants. The farmer wants a dripping plant. So we're just starting there. We're starting with the dripping plant. That's what we're giving the farmer because that's what they want. That's what they'll pay for. And then we're going to add the precision a little later on when the farmer's ready for that, when the market's ready for that. And that's our strategy. There's a lot of robotics companies going a very different way towards that precision. And look, it's really exciting stuff. I mean, if we can get to that level of precision, there's looking and then spraying only the affected areas, that's great. But it's just not where my market is today.
So it will be way different than drone spraying?
Sorry?
Will it be totally different than the current practice of drone spraying? Drone applications?
Oh, drone spraying. It's a little bit different to drone spraying. It's a lot cheaper. So your typical, like an XAG drone, which is, I guess, the leading brand in China now, is about $10,000 US for the full kit with the drone, the batteries, everything. Okay. We're looking at about $1,500 US. So much, much cheaper. Okay. But it's also quite different in how it works. So a drone is a blanket spray. Okay. The drone sprays the entire hectare evenly. But what we're doing is row spraying. So for rice, it's okay. You can cover the whole plantation. But for potatoes, it's really nice to be able to just spray the row. So we're focused on those row crops, things like potatoes, things like tomatoes. That's the difference from drones. It's also cheaper. And in Southeast Asia, we're seeing a lot of regulatory issues with drones. So the government just simply won't allow a drone, a flying vehicle full of pesticide just doesn't sound very good to a regulator. So we feel there's an edge in the market for robotics. It's on the ground, it's a bit safer, a bit more under control, and I think there's going to be a lot of open space for robots for the time being.
Paul, it looks like I need to invite you again to talk much, much more. I think 1 hour is not enough to speak to you. Surely
no worries, Raj. I'll be happy to do that.
Yeah, but except that you need to spoil your sleep once again.
No worries.
Yeah. Paul, it's amazing. It was amazing talking to you. You've been so passionate, not only in your work, but even to speak to the people. I mean, you answered. I mean, I think this is first time that I had so many people speaking to a speaker. I mean, each one of them went back with so much knowledge and satisfaction. So, friends, I think that brings to an end for this another edition of Ray Talks. Thank Paul joining me all the way from Melbourne, Australia. Friends, you all know that I mentioned earlier, repeating that all our past recordings, including Paul's, would be uploaded on YouTube/Ray Consulting. Please visit and you can subscribe, like, and forward. Please share it with your friends. It's each one of the series, each one of the shows, talks is on a different subject. We are trying to bring entire agri value chain on the same space. Subscribe to our Facebook and LinkedIn pages of Ray Consulting. In case you have missed to get the information from us, we are doing our best. Each one of our shows is marketed through 10,000 exclusive email IDs which you are getting There's almost 6,000 WhatsApp messages which you are getting only to the agri professionals, and each one of them is connecting us to us. And today the show is popular. It's almost 33 countries we get the registrations from. Today I see we got something from 19 countries. Paul, you are so popular, I would say. Thanks for this. And before I sign off, I would like to announce our next episodes. Next Saturday, that's at 4 o'clock again, we have leaders from micro irrigation speaking to me, a couple of them. They would talk about macro irrigation, drip irrigation, and that technology to that. And on 25th, I have again amazing leaders speaking to me. Samir Tandon from UPL is going to talk to me, along with Tarakeshwar Durjati of Nuzumudi Seeds. And then I have someone from the US who is going to join me at his 5 o'clock in the morning, Eric Bowman from Cytozyme. So I'm here to spoil everybody's sleep for the benefit of the world's agriculture. So, and then friends, please look forward for a blockbuster, Indian favorite word, blockbuster show on 15th of August, which happens to be a Saturday. Most likely on 25th webinar, we may be having at 5 o'clock instead of 4 o'clock. So Eric can sleep for about an hour more in the US. So maybe we'll do that. Thank you so much, Paul. Thanks for coming and sharing your passionate thoughts which are going to be used across. And let's wish we meet in person. So until then, I would say bye with this.
Thanks, Raj.
Yes.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And thanks to those that asked questions and expressed interest in the topic.
Really
Thank you.
Thanks for joining, Paul. Thank you,
Thank you.
Awesome attendees and guests. You have always been encouraging us at Ray Consulting to bring the leaders like Paul to talk to all of us. Thank you, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye for
All
now.
of you, please take care. Take care.
Good day and greetings from Seedworks. My name is Vasantawada Venkatram. I work as CEO for Seedworks International Private Limited, based out of Hyderabad, India. Seedworks' vision is to provide superior seed solutions by harnessing technologies and innovation to create value for all stakeholders in a sustainable manner. At Seedworks, we are committed to enhance the livelihood of the farming community by closely working with public, private, and civil society to meet the national goal of doubling up the farmers' income. The introduction of Agriculture 4.0 has paved the way for a new space in agriculture, which we now call as the agri-tech sector. Companies use the latest and emerging technologies in agri-sector as an engine for sustainable growth. At Seedworks, being a life science and technology company, we are focusing on digitization and innovation as levers to meet the social, environmental, and the economic growth of the seed ecosystem.